Hi guys, it's Love and Info with Love and Info. So, how's everybody doing today? As the mess you guys saved me off yesterday, I'm doing a lot better. Um, Yesterday I let whatever bad decision I took bring me down to the point where I wasn't doing anything productive. Um, Today was a little different. I was able to just go on with my day. Which is a very important part of learning lessons is to be able to keep pushing while you keep time for anything to heal. So you live and you learn, you know. So today's video is very special to me because it's I'm gonna tell a very personal story that I feel like it's my time now to vocalize because I have a platform of 40 people and it's something I believe in and it's something that is going on in our society a lot that is making a straight direct impact in my life and around those like me, which is immigration. And you know, everybody has different ideas of what immigrants are like and what coming as a kid, you know, to the United States as an immigrant is like. A lot of the times, the ones that you hear the most are the ones by those who were raised in the U.S. with that immigrant state of mind, in which they don't feel entitled at all to that American dream or that American lifestyle in which everything is, I wouldn't say not worked so far hard, not so hard worked for, but there is a lot of privilege to being just born here. That the simple fact of having a social security, a lot of people with it would never understand what it's like to be here without having one, and what that really means to easy and to easy your life, and to also bring it into a comfort zone in which you don't grow. But that's another story. So, you know, this most of the kids get affected by that because they come into the US, their language barriers puts them in that categorize, their social aspects and perspectives put them there. But what about those kids whose social development is a little more adaptive? So they grow not feeling the total change of it all, you know? That they go unannounced and unperceived to the rest as immigrants, and they don't quite tell that difference between a Mexican American and an immigrant. Because let me tell you guys a real cute fact about when I got to the U.S. When I first got to the U.S. and I went to Roosevelt, which is a middle school, 7th grade, it I was mostly bullied by who I was as a Mexican and not speak and smoke English. Not so much by no white or black kid, but my own kind. The kind that didn't speak Spanish correctly, and I looked down upon like, you're the Mexican one who doesn't speak Spanish, you know? But those are just contrary points to the same thing in which everybody should speak a bunch of languages. Bottom line, what is the other side of the spectrum? And those kids, you know, like myself, that when me growing up, I never felt that. You know, at some point, something's got to give because that's who I am. I am an immigrant. I am an immigrant. English is my second language. I am not only a minority. I am a threatened minority at this moment. And having to realize this, you know, growing up, it's just like I knew it in the back of my head. I knew it. Like I don't have an idea. I don't have a social. I don't have a this. You know, going to school it wasn't a problem. And then all of a sudden leaving school and having to start a regular life, and then it's like, boom, you hit this wall, you know, where you realize that you only have the right to that you can only achieve to certain jobs, because those are the jobs that will hire immigrants, you know, illegal immigrants, and or you're not being able to achieve to certain dreams that other people around you can reach so easily, and how it becomes hard for you, and how because you didn't have the mentality of I have to work so hard, so much harder than everybody else growing up because of who I am, because this is what the world pushes upon me, you know, you maybe don't have that I gotta work hard mentality, you know, and that may be a lot of influence in who I was as a person growing up and how I was raised, obviously, you know. But that to me was the point that I realized today, you know. Anyway, and that is why I wanted to tell my story. Oh, that bitch blabbers. Oh, that bitch blabbers. Hair too high? No such thing. I'm loving my hair today, by the way. Look. Yes. I take out the ring because it keep falling. I don't know. My fingers like grow skinny and fat. I don't know. They're weird. So I came over here. I turned 15 years old over here in the U.S. I did 14 or 15. Yeah, I turned 15 years old in the U.S. So I came over here when I was 14. And the whole thing started because in Mexico, like, my mom always worked in the U.S. and I grew up with my grandmother and my mom. We had at some point of my life, like after 6 years old until the moment I came across, we had a abarrotes, which is immediate necessity store. We had a store. We ran a store, like a grocery store, like a tiny grocery market store. And that was to sustain our lives. And my mom used to work here in the U.S. like with shitty jobs that meant a lot in Mexico because it was like triple the money or whatnot, at one point. And that was it's a common story, parents cross over every day to, support their family in Mexico and blah, blah, blah. I was one of them families, except that she was a single mother and it was just me and my grandma. So I spent a lot of time alone, a lot extreme, crazy amounts of time alone, which made me have a lot of I was always good at it, but when you don't have the chance to socialize, you just can't develop that right away, So it caused me a lot of issues in the future, but that's another story. So because of the lack of protection and the lack of structure and the lack of authority in my life, I started doing whatever the fuck I wanted. I was fucking 14 years old. I started hanging out with this. I was coming out of the closet then. I had already came out of the closet. I was trying to identify myself. I had no guidance. It was crazy. And I'm in Tijuana, okay? Hanging out with these gay guys that are done all kinds of shit at the age of 17. I used to pass myself as a 17-year-old all the time. And I would hang out with these kids and stuff. And I wasn't doing drugs or anything. But, there was a couple of times where I just didn't come home. Because I just was like, for what? I just want to be over and having fun. There's nothing at home. There's just my grandma being weird. My beautiful grandmother. She was a little bit in that eccentric side. And that illuminated to an eccentric state of mind side. But, so I then came home a couple of times. And just this one time. So this is the official story of how I got brought into the United States. With lies! So, my mother tells me, after I didn't come home for a couple of days, she goes, we're going to go visit your aunt in the U.S. Now, my aunt and her bro have been living up here for a while now. They've made life up here. So she goes, we're going to go visit your aunts, and we'll be back. To me, which is a common thing. I've always had my passport and my visa border crosser, which I was able to cross here. That visa, doesn't allow you to work or live here, but allows you to cross legally, which I did. And she brought me over here, and then next thing you know, she's like, oh, you're going to spend the night, That didn't fucking make me excited. Why? Because I didn't have asked to spend the night. And because never before in my fucking goddamn life she had let me spend the night nowhere else. So I knew something fucking fishy was going on. She said, you're going to spend the night here, and I'll come get you tomorrow. You just need to spend some time up here. I said, okay. Fucking week later, getting beat by my uncle for every gay thing that I do. And a month later, social services is getting called, and my aunt is moving out because everybody's fucking freaking out. I've gotten beat up by him all this fucking time, so I'm scared of him to death. And I get to get a little bit of insight of what the world of social services was here in the U.S., They hand me back to my mom, and my mom decides that, okay, because at that point, she left me with my aunt and my cousin and her two kids, and my uncle used to live there too. So I started going to school. I picked up English like in a matter of 3 months. It's something that I'm very proud of. I've always loved words. Like I love words. I've always have loved words. It's the least of respect that I can that I owe to that sentence. Is to say it right. But so English wasn't a problem, and social development was like, I feel very attacked and everything there. But at the same time, I feel this need of just being myself because I felt like these kids didn't know. They couldn't hit me hard enough, no matter, because where I come from, this motherfuckers, And I feel freedom within their attacks, because their attacks were just, I knew they couldn't get to me. I knew they couldn't break me, because I came from a really broken down place, you know. And also I came from a place in Mexico, you know, social revolution and the gay aspect was fucking on going it was leaving the station and never come back, you know. It was a huge thing. Gay social structure was building in Mexico hard, you know. It's been legal, gay marriage has been legal out there for fucking longer than I can remember now, over 10 years, you know. And it was while I was growing up, while I was you know, from 13 to 14 years old, that I got to see this. So for me to be gay and to be out there and to be on your face and glamorous and flamboyant about it was my pride. What made me different, that somehow in a crazy way seemed to be the only thing that was ever going to associate me to America, because because it broke traditions, and I can see that people had very little respect for each other, and that is the only way that I started to, you know, do that. And then, meanwhile, at home, you know, I was, like I said, my mother wasn't living with me. I miss my grandma like crazy, because she raised me. And I don't know how long after that she started getting sick and stuff, and she died a couple years later. But bottom line, meanwhile, like I said, at home, you know, my uncle was trying his best to beat me back to straight, which wasn't quite working out, you know, like. So then there was a time that I tried, like, ran away to Mexico. Like, I stole $100 from my mom's purse, which wasn't uncommon back then. And I just, like, try to fucking run back and all this kind of shit. And then I get caught and I get beat again. And then that was, like, my mom's, you know, eyes just opened after the social services got involved and all that. And she decided to just say, you know what, if I'm going to bring my kid out to a different country, the least I can do is just be with him. So she sold her house in Mexico, left my grandmother down there by herself, because that's one of the things that was dividing her, you know. And finally, my uncle started taking my aunt and my uncle started taking a little more responsibility, where they should have had a long fucking time ago. Well, that's a personal fucking issue that we won't go into. And then, I started living just with my mother. Our relationship was fucking horrible. I mean, our relationship was so fucking bad. Like, our relationship was bad. I cannot explain to you guys how bad the relationship between me and my mother was, you know? And she had all these shitty jobs all the time that she didn't like. She started working at McDonald's, which she hated even more. Because before, she worked in the US because she wanted to. She wanted the extra money. And now she had to. You know, there was no other option. There was no business owning in Mexico. There was no meaning in having a house in Mexico. There was no meaning in all the effort that she had ever put into building her home, owning her business. Even seeing my mom letting all this go, it didn't make me understand what sacrifice she was making and why. I was resentful that I was taken away from where I was. And I started my first addiction, which even ever since then it's always been meth. And I went crazy tweaker. I went crazy tweaker for a year or two. 14, 15, 16, 17, 3 years, you know, just on and off, on and off, on and off. And it was a pandemonium for my mother. And being within all these drugs and getting introduced into a gay world in which it was all these young little drug addicts make money off the older drug addicts, who then all became drug addicts, was a cycle I saw. And then I tried to take a different side in it, and that's where the whole escorting thing started for me. And that's when I realized I had to be sober for escorting. And that's something that just kind of, my life started shifting differently after that. And the fact that I was an immigrant, and that, you know, all of that, after everything that I had been through, just didn't matter, because somehow I have developed an American social structure, because maybe going through all of that is what every American goes through, and that's a fucking American dream. I don't fucking know, you know, it's different for everybody. But somehow that affected me differently, because I didn't have, that was one stigma I didn't carry. I never thought about it. No one ever questioned my English. No one ever questioned, I mean, my whole life I grew up, oh, you're from Mexico? Oh, you speak Spanish? Yeah, I barely fucking speak English. You know? Um, so overcoming all this fucking drugs and all this shit, and, you know, becoming 18, trying to get adopted, you know, having somebody wondering, somebody, you know, who was my adopted dad, who I gained my last name from, looking at me and being like, you're fucking 18, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to be an escort? Why are you, you know, he thought I was 18. He said, why are you doing this? And I'm just like, well, because, you know, I don't have any papers. And that's where, you know, the whole thing started. I got my last name, I got adopted, and my process, you know, becoming an American started and stuff like that. It wasn't finished then because we got ripped off by some motherfucker in Chula Vista on H Street years ago, many years ago, like 6-7 years ago, who took like over $1,000 from me and my dad, well, from my mom's and my adopted father's hard work earning, and ripped us the fuck off, trying to sell us the American stable dream, you know, and that disappointed me a lot. That disappointed me a lot because it made me realize in the little delusion that I lived in which I didn't have to acknowledge that, therefore it didn't existed. It really became my comfort zone not to try and fix my papers, not to try and go and deal with that, you know, because then I realized what I was outside of that idea, that I never embraced it, which whether it was positive or negative, you know, and then after that, I just, you know, I was escorting, so money wasn't an issue. I would get a job here and there just to prove to people that I had a job, and that's where my money was coming from. Or every once in a while, I'd try to, like, you know, change my life because I had a boyfriend or something, and it wouldn't last long, you know. Either the boyfriend and I would end up doing it together, or I just end up fucking leaving them and doing it because that's what I love to do. And now, more than ever, I'm at a point in my life in which I want to strive and achieve harder. And I'm starting to notice, because of, you know, my situation is a little different, I know that all it takes for me to do is to take care of stuff and I achieve what I want, you know. But the beginning of all this process, which has been going on for a long time now, you know, I just started to realize how underachieving you have to be, you know, when you're an immigrant. And it just really sucks because it's just people trying to better their lives, you know. It's just people trying to do better for themselves and those around me. And what is around me? This fucking country. This fucking country in the state of California that I love so fucking much. So much. And as an immigrant, that is all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give back for all the precious moments that I was here for. Everything that I've learned, everything that I grow, the roots. That no law can never change my roots that are here. You know? Yeah. So, in the present moment, you know, I'm, last time I got detained, immigration was like, you got a status out here, you just got to go claim it, you know, you got to do this before it becomes a bigger problem, and blah, 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 blah. And that was a while ago, so I went and did all that, and the process is so fucking long, you know. I'm able to work right now and stuff like that, but it's just, it was hard, still hard, you know. Anyway, we're all stars, no matter where we come from.